Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, the podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about The Whale. This movie came out at the end of last year, like the very end of last year, and it's an A24 movie, which I think I've done one other review of an A24 film, which was The Northman, and I did not in any way, shape, or form enjoy that movie. And I think that I made a comment in that review that I do not like A24 films. I don't usually ever enjoy them. And that has pretty much been standard for me across the board. I think the only A24 film that I moderately enjoyed was the one with, is it Anya Taylor-Joy, who did The Witch? I think it's called The Witch. And that one I enjoyed. I thought it was fine, but it's not something I would watch again. It's not something that I would rave about, anything like that. And A24 Films, for me, that production company just never puts out the type of movies that I typically enjoy. So I waited on The Whale for quite a while. I wasn't sure if I was going to wait to see it on streaming, when it came out, maybe in a couple of months. And especially with all of the, not advertisements, but all of the critic reviews and people just sort of talking about it a ton. Typically movies like that can go either way. And so I wasn't sure, combined with it being an A24 film and critics, hating it and talking about how you shouldn't go see it. And it's fat shaming and all of this stuff. I knew that I kind of wanted to wait a little bit and just sort of see what reviews were like, see if people liked it. And then when I started seeing that the reviews were really good, I actually just ended up waiting longer to see the movie because I was like, these have to be paid reviews. Something in my brain was there's no way. Even though I adore Brendan Fraser, I think that he's a fantastic actor. I am stoked about the fact that he is getting back into doing, TV and movies and all of that kind of stuff because I've missed him. I've definitely missed him. I grew up watching him from Encino Man and George of the Jungle and completely fell in love with him when he did The Mummy. And so him kind of going on the hiatus and not really doing a lot of acting for a good while there, I was excited to see him coming out with something new. And I was excited to kind of go see The Whale, but I was iffy. I was definitely on the fence and definitely leaning towards, I'm probably going to go see this and I'm probably not going to like it. And then I'm going to feel bad talking bad about Brendan Fraser. I'm going to feel bad. It's going to hurt me in my heart. And so I was putting off. And I finally went to go see it today. And you guys, I have to say, without even an inkling of anything, nothing untruth about it, The Whale is by far my favorite A24 film and the first A24 film that I can actually say I loved. I loved this movie. And I have to admit that it tore me apart. I am a very big baby. I've mentioned it in quite a lot of my reviews. I'm a very big baby. I cry in movies. If anyone in a film is crying, typically I will cry. And I sort of figured that this one was going to be sad because watching the trailer, the trailer kind of choked me up. So I knew it was probably going to get me. I snot bubble cried in this film. It's not like any other A24 film that I've ever seen. And I am very grateful for that because I don't think I would have enjoyed it if it had stuck to their status quo of movies. And typically, A24 films, at least the ones that I've seen thus far, and I haven't seen all of them, but they have sort of this tendency to have a smaller cast, and The Whale is no exception. I think there are 7 total people that you see in this, and one of those well, I guess two of those, you really only see for a very small portion of the film. This is very much centered around Brendan Fraser, Sadie Sink. There's a character named Liz, and then there also is a character named Thomas. And they are all of them are incredible. Like, there isn't a single person that I don't like. And the thing about The Whale that I think that I thoroughly enjoyed about it is that it's, maybe this is why it also just gets you to cry too, is it's very just realistic. It's very small. It feels almost like somehow you are sitting in that room with like watching this play out, and it's done in such a way that it doesn't even really feel that much like a film. It just sort of feels like you're sitting in the room kind of watching these people interact, you know, almost like if you're a fly on the wall and you're just watching this portion of Charlie's life, and Charlie is the main character. And so if you're not aware of The Whale, or you haven't gone to see it yet, The Whale basically centers around Brendan Fraser's character, and his name is Charlie. And kind of through the movie, you find out that he sort of has always been a little bit beefy, I would say. It shows you like a couple of little snippets of kind of what he looked like before. And I wouldn't say that he was obese. I would say he was overweight, probably, you know, at the beginning, but not in a way that I would consider like grossly unhealthy or anything of that nature. And what happens with his sort of story, and I'm not going to give away, I'm going to try not to give any spoilers away for this one, but really kind of what happens is he is married and he has a daughter, and then he meets a student, and it's a male student, and they kind of fall in love with each other. And so he gets a divorce. He leaves his wife and daughter in order to have a partnership with this male student. And kind of once that happens, you know, he loses his relationship, obviously, with his ex-wife. It seems to me to be an extremely volatile kind of separation, as I don't think that's surprising that it would be, to be left, you know, and kind of find out that your husband is gay and he's leaving you for a younger man. And like that, of course, is going to be somewhat of a volatile ending, right? And so he loses his relationship with his wife, and then at the same time loses his relationship with his daughter, who is 8 years old at that time. And where you are now, his partner has died. And so that has what has kind of started him on the journey of becoming obese. And so you start the film where he already is obese. All of these things have already happened. And then you get to kind of see him trying to reconnect with his daughter, who he hasn't seen in like 9 years. You get to see his relationship with this nurse, Liz, who I think is definitely like, you kind of learn their relationship and stuff. And it's definitely more than just this nurse that comes to help him. It's definitely someone that cares about him and is a friend of his. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And it's one of those films that if you have feelings, you're going to cry. You're going to cry, or you're going to feel some type of way about it, because it's just so raw and honest, and the closest probably to real life of any movie that I've ever seen. Like, I can't in my mind think of another film that hits on this level that I have personally seen. And I'm sure that there, you know, each person out there is going to have kind of their own movie that they're like, no, this one is the one that like gets me, you know, in my core. This is one of those movies that I think I was talking to a friend and I was comparing it. I was like, this is one of those movies that kind of reminds me of A Quiet Place. And I mean that by like, it's immersive to the point where you stop eating your snacks. You stop thinking about the people around you. You are there. You are there in that moment. You are feeling that film. You know how like when you went to go see A Quiet Place, and once you figured out that the monsters detect noise, you just sat there in the theater, just frozen. You wouldn't eat your snacks, you know, like you wanted to be very quiet. And The Whale definitely did that for me. Like, I didn't want to touch my popcorn anymore. I just sat there and just experienced this movie. And the way that Brendan Fraser plays this character, I mean, hands down, if Brendan Fraser does not win an Oscar for The Whale, I will riot in the streets. I have never seen a performance before that was as Oscar worthy as his performance in this. Like, to come back into doing like film and have this be really that like breakout role for him, I cannot even express. I cannot even express how much I love it. The thing that made me the most sad about this film, though, honestly, has to be that when I went to the theater, there was barely anyone there. And it kind of made me think like, oh, this must be bad, right? Nobody wants to go see it. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that people have a misconception. I certainly had a misconception of what this movie was going to be, and that potentially people are not going to see it. And I think that that is an absolute shame, because this movie was incredible. There was not a single person that I think did a bad job or took the movie down. Sadie Sink in this also. I've only ever seen her in Stranger Things. I think she's done a couple of things, outside of that, but I've never bothered to watch them, I don't think. She does amazing in this film. Everyone does. And Samantha Morton is in this, which I didn't know. Samantha Morton is from The Serpent Queen, and I love her. She was also in Harlots, and I love her. And I had no clue, because I didn't really look this up before going to see it. I had no clue that she was going to be in it, and I very much enjoyed her. She's not in it for very long, but she does a great job while she's there. Of course she does, because every single person in this movie, just incredible performance. And for all of those critics that were ragging on this movie and saying that it's fat shaming and all of that stuff, it's not. If you go into The Whale and all that you come out with is fat shaming, you've not been paying attention. That's not at all what this movie is about. It really just isn't. His weight definitely has a lot to do with kind of what's going on in the movie, obviously. But it's not like there was nothing in the movie other than, this is unhealthy, like this is going to take your life kind of stuff. But it's not the focal point of what's going on in this film. So highly, highly recommend. Absolutely watch it if you have any inkling to have wanted to do so. I would very much recommend. This is definitely going to be one that I think I will want to own and have in the collection. And if I'm feeling sort of down that day, this is the perfect movie to turn it on. Not only will you feel better about yourself, but you're going to have a good cry in the process. So those are my thoughts on The Whale. I would love to know your thoughts if you have seen it. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.